So again, I generally attempt to just be very clear, right? We use words, and those words produce energy. But if the word isn't understood or being used or defined in a common manner, then the target can never be met. So I say the word love to you. And while there is a connotation and a denotation to every word, very few of us are using the denotation of that word. And so when we say love, we're speaking from our perspective, right? And so from the listener's perspective, love could mean something completely different. Love could mean the giving of gifts. Love can mean touch. Love could mean abuse, right? There's a myriad of potentialities associated with what each and every single word uttered can mean to the listener. So what happens is we go through life and we listen to the words that are being used. And again, most commonly what we're doing is we're attacking each other, right? We're pointing out attributes and characteristics and idiosyncrasies in each other. And we're using that to create one of these comfortable little boxes, right? And it says that this person is this, right? We use these words toxic and alpha and beta, and we use all of these words, right? And in pushing words out at the listener, what we're necessarily doing is we're attempting to create a difference between that behavior or that idiosyncrasy and ourselves. So we necessarily are putting ourselves above somebody, right? When we speak and when we use these words, they're necessarily attack tools versus communicative vehicles whereby we can clearly come to truths and allow that truth to take form. So the planet is suffering, right? And one of the reasons it's suffering is because of these various things. It's because there is a connotation and a denotation to every word. So while you're in conversation with somebody, they're saying something, but you're not necessarily catching it because you don't understand what that person is saying. It would be a lot easier in our relationships if a man could go to a woman and say, you know, that thing that you just did, the thing that you just said, that hurt me. And here's why it hurt me. I connected to an experience that I had earlier in my life. And this is what it means to me. And if you were able to express that to her, that person would turn to you and say, damn, I didn't know that. I'm sorry, right? And it changes things simply using the language appropriately, right? So I hear the terms alpha and beta thrown around a lot, right? And so again, as we just spoke to, there was a connotation and a denotation to every word. So let's look at the connotation, right? The connotation, well, so the denotation, what is that? Well, no, let's look at the connotation first, right? The connotation and the way that it's currently being used is for a person. So when somebody says that that's beta behavior, what they are necessarily saying is they're alpha and they're creating a difference. That's beta. That behavior is beta. I'm alpha, right? It's a false pride. It's a false, you know, but what made you alpha? The things that you can buy, the things that you wear, the things that you like, the things that you say. What makes you an alpha? Furthermore, when we look at when we slip back to the denotation, the human is on a scale as it relates to alpha predators. The alpha predator on the North American continent is first the polar bear, right? After the polar bear, you'll find wolves, right? These are the alpha predators. When you look at a scale of alpha, right, the human falls somewhere in the area of a pig, right? You're on par with a pig as it relates to your being a predator in a hierarchy of species. So what happens is this. We create these tiny little comfortable bubbles, right? And within this bubble, we take a name or we take a definition and we say we're alpha. And it's similar to like the NBA or the NFL, right? Or the boxing, World Boxing Federation. In America, when you reach the pinnacle of that, they call themselves the world champions, but you ain't played the world, or you played with everybody here, right? But in this bubble, right, it makes sense. In this bubble, the people convince themselves and they say, yes, that's the world champion NBA team that hasn't played the world, right? They haven't played anyone in the world. They've only played themselves, right? So it is in the same vein that we use these words like alpha and beta. We omit everything else. We overlook the actual hierarchy. We overlook our station within that hierarchy, and then we come to a conclusion and we say we are this. It's necessarily false, right? It's necessarily and patently false. In no shape or form are you actually alpha, not using the connotation nor the denotation. Why do I say that? Why can I say that with such certainty, right? Because, again, using the denotation, right? The alpha predator in Africa is the lion, right? The alpha predator in North America is the polar bear and the wolf, right? You fall very low on that scale. If you go to the Serengeti because you're thirsty and you go to a watering hole, you got less beef than anything else. Anything else got more beef. The antelope got more beef than you, right? You the easy mark, you understand? You're not alpha. So that's you. That's our denotation. But let's look at the connotation, right? Let's dwell in that little bubble that makes humans comfortable by being able to point fingers and say, at least I'm not that. And that one does this, and she does that, and he does the other thing. And that makes them all of these little categories and little boxes that we can place these people in and say, you're not me, right? Let's get into that little bubble for a second, okay? So when we speak about the connotation associated with alpha, well, I guess the first thing that would eliminate your being an alpha is the question, are you tied to the success or failure of another man? If the system under which you exist should fail, how many days can you survive, right? If the power goes out, how long do you live? If the water, sanitation, and delivery mechanisms should fail, how long will you live? If the stores and the supply chains and the gas and the economy and the jobs and all of these different things that are provided to you by way of the plantation master should fail, how long can you live? So when you hear our brothers and sisters speaking about alpha, right? What they're doing is they're saying, I'm alpha of the plantation. I'm not including anyone else. I'm talking about your nappy head. I'm saying I'm better than you. I'm not saying I'm an actual man. I'm not saying I maintain responsibility for my own existence and my ability to exist within the next 72 hours. I'm not saying that I have ultimate responsibility over my babies' lives and the lives of the people in my community and those that I love. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying I'm alpha to the extent that I actually maintain control over my own life. I'm only saying I'm alpha around your nappy head, right? So again, the scale being used, right? And the connotation being used also proves itself as being completely faulty. You are not alpha if you are dependent upon another man in order to exist into the next 72 hours. You are not alpha. In fact, if you are dependent, the degree of man you are is directly proportionate to the number of essential needs that are not under your control. So if you have control over all of your essential needs and the things that are required for you to be able to live into the next 72 hours, now you're alpha. At that point, you're alpha. This is consistent for the lion. This is consistent for the polar bear. This is consistent for the wolf. If you do not need anything or anybody to exist, now you're alpha. But if you need water, you've just turned into a beta. If you need shelter from another man, you've just turned into a delta. See, and so it is directly proportionate to the number of essential needs that you must go outside of yourself in order to satisfy. So we use these words, right? And we're using them as weapons against each other. But again, it's being done in a vacuum because you are not considering yourself in a hierarchy or a scale that transcends species or even your own race. You're not talking about white men, because if a white man was in a room, you wouldn't be saying you're alpha because you're dependent upon him, right? So with that being said, why would you do that? What in you requires that somebody must be lesser in order for you to be greater? That's false. Again, when we speak these words, when we speak alpha and these different words, if they are rooted in a fallacy, if they are rooted in a falsehood, then anything that comes from them must be perverse. So the pride that you're reflecting is not true pride. It's a false pride, and everything that will come from it, like branches from a tree, will produce a poisonous fruit because it is not real pride. The manhood that you put on like a new jacket, like a technicolor dream coat, if that manhood is predicated upon the things that you can buy, the amount of money that massa allows you, the job that massa has allowed you, the ability to buy the table at IKEA and then walk around it like a peacock and say, what do you bring to my table? If these are the things that you use to define your manhood, then the manhood is false. And then anything that comes from it must necessarily be toxic. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? If we dissect the words that we're saying, if we dissect the words and the validity of those words, are you in fact alpha? Come on. Are you in fact? Let me tell you something. I went through a forest in Uganda. Now, before we got into this forest, Magomu and what was the brother's name? I forget the brother's name. But before we went into this forest, before we entered into it, they stopped the car and checked the tires. They checked the gas. They checked the oil. They made sure the car was physically functional before we entered into this forest, and I didn't really understand why. But the forest that we were entering into has 79% of the world's primate population inside. There are no streetlights, right? And it's a long run. When you go into this forest, the sides of the road are covered. The canopy of the trees makes it dark on that road. And you can see nothing but this forest. And there's not one person going through that forest that is ever going to stop and get out. You're never, ever, the people there know this is why they stopped and checked that, because there's no way in the world you're going to survive if your car should break down while you're in that. And let it be nighttime, it's a wrap. No one's going to hear from you again. So you're not alpha. You're not alpha here, there, not nowhere. You're not alpha. You're saying that. And again, you're not saying that in a Congress of all men on the planet Earth. You're not saying in a room full of Russians and Chinese and Japanese and Italians and Portuguese and Europeans. You're not saying in a room from all of them and saying I'm alpha. You're not doing that. You know why? Because you can't. You can't. And necessarily, if you cannot, with any validity, stand in a Congress of all men and say you're alpha, then you are pumped to stand in front of your own and say you alpha. That's a plantation bully. That's a plantation peacock trying to bolster his own lacking self-image by putting another man down. That is not where your manhood is found. That is not where pride is found. That is not how you get to the place where you need to be as a man. That is not. Pride cannot be purchased at IKEA with some assembly required. Manhood cannot be purchased at your local realtor's office. It cannot. True pride is not found by buying a table from IKEA, bringing it into your house, and then walking around it like a peacock and asking women, what do you bring to my table? Real pride is found when you go and harvest the wood. You go and you plan to build a table, and you take your time and you put your hands and your thought and your love into building that table. And even if that table may not be level, you will find true pride in that table. And every time you sit down or anybody sits down, it's a gift. You've given them a gift because they're sitting at the table that your mind, that your love, that your hands produced. But if the gift or the place where the gift is supposed to happen has been purchased and is allowed to you by white supremacy, then any pride that you have in that table is false. Any pride that you have in that table is false. And so we walking around beating ourselves up, beating each other up, and diminishing our own humanity. Why do I say we diminish our own humanity? Because it is not possible that either you or I or any human can be extricated from the history which produced them. So the environment that my father was born into and existed through was unhealthy and unnatural. And the environment and the circumstances surrounding his father's existence were unnatural and unhealthy. The environment that his father and his, going back 20 generations, the environment that my mother was born and raised into was an unhealthy and abnormal environment. Yes, she was an amazing woman. Yes, my father was an amazing man. They did everything that they could to cope with the scenario and the circumstances surrounding their lives. They did everything they could to become as whole and healthy as they possibly could. But that is assuming a scale that produces the deficit first. And it says from starting at this place, you were able to cope. But that's not natural. That's not normal. That's no reason to spread peacock feathers and then walk around your own and say, I'm so great because I've been able to cope with this unnatural and abnormal condition better than you. Are you crazy? Like, I say, are you crazy? I say that. Honestly, there's very few times that I ask a question that I don't know the answer. Of course, we're crazy because 400 years of abject horror has been endured by every single member of our family for every single second of their lives. And we are a product of that. You cannot extricate us from the history that produced us. We're human too. So in that humanity, it is impossible for any one of us to exist today absent the scars and the history that produced us. So I suggest you give yourself a break. Give each other a break. Take that shit off your tongue. Spit it out. You ain't no alpha. If you out, man, look, I'm not knocking you. I'm doing a level set. I'm not alpha. You going out to the woods where wolves are, and you show me your alpha. You ain't. You're not, right? So I'm not putting you down. I'm highlighting that there's a ways to go yet. In order to get to the manhood that you just so desperately want to exude, there's a ways to go yet. There are instruments that keep you from that place. In order to be the alpha that you purport to be, there is a body of work that you must perform in order to get to that place. I want you to be real. I want you to be what you want to be. I don't want to take away from you, and I damn sure ain't going to take nicks out of your armor on the way. The stars in the sky are not jealous of each other. Just because another one shines, it doesn't take anything from the other. It only improves the quality of them all. They exist to highlight each other and them all. One can't take from the other. So stop with that I'm alpha and you're beta. Stop with that bullshit, man. It's only weakness, man. It's only weakness, and anybody on that can actually see it from a higher level recognizes that. You ain't saying that to white folk. You ain't saying that to Chinese folk. You're not saying that to all of the people that control your existence. You're only saying it on the plantation to your own people. So why the fuck are you scarring your people this way? Why? Why? You think you're providing a service to them, but what you are doing is you're adding insult to injury. We are injured. We are injured. Why would you add scars to your brother or sister? Why? Do you? So, and again, I don't ask questions whose answer I do not know. I know why. If I were to take two little white children and put them into a basement, separated from each other, and I kept them in darkness, and I fed them when I wanted to feed them, and I beat them when I wanted to beat them, and I clothed them when I wanted to, and anything that they wanted had to come through me, and I maintained ultimate control. I renamed those two little white boys, right? When time goes forward, if I should start to give one a little more than I give the other, I will produce enmity within them, right? If, as time goes on, if I begin to show favor to one over another, I can create an adversarial relationship between them that is so powerful that they will forget that I am the enemy. They will forget that I'm the enemy. So if I should go down there and put a gun with one bullet, one will kill the other and he will never think about killing me. I know why. I know why, right? This is a psychological experiment that has been absolutely abhorrent. And yet we sit within it, the best qualified to be able to speak to, the best qualified to be able to highlight its manifestation and the way that it is impacting human behavior for us and for everyone else. But instead of doing that, we're trying to be comfortable up under it, right? We're imaginary white people. We want to strut around our own and say, I'm so much better. I got so much more than you. Massa favors me more than you. And with this, we use it as a weapon and we hurt each other and we scar each other. I am remiss to say that if any of my people, so none of my people would have ever imagined that we could work from home and make amazing salaries and do the things that we do. These things could have never been fathomed by my people before me. But I am also keenly aware that it could not be fathomed the depths in relation to interpersonal relationships, black man to black man, black man to woman, woman to our interpersonal relationships, children to parent, parent to children, elder to us. Our interpersonal relationships are terrible. And it's because we're using words. We don't have clear definitions. We're assuming that this word means this. And because I use it, it means the same to you. And what we end up doing is we end up injecting no nutrition. We don't serve as each other's battery. I'm not bolstering you. I'm not making you stronger for what you got to face today. I'm chipping away at you. And this is what we're doing. These are the who gets a platform. These are the people that we're focused on and listening to, and they're chipping away and they're talking about this one and that one and the other one. When you hear me speak, you don't hear me speak nothing about no white man or anybody else. I'm not speaking about them because they're not the litmus by which to measure any fucking thing. I'm not speaking about them. I'm speaking about our responsibility, what we need to do, how we become men, how we become alpha. That's what I speak to. I don't speak to any other people. And so anytime you hear somebody speaking about other people, but they are not speaking about how we get to the place where we need to, then that person is trapping you. They got your feet in the mud of the pig's parlor. because it does not have solution. All it does is it copes and it makes us more comfortable in the place that we stand. And the place that we stand, we should never find comfort in, right? The place that we stand, we should not be focused on trying to find comfort within. We should be looking for that higher ground. We should be moving towards that goal. You should be moving towards that manhood that I so desperately want for you and for me and for your sons and your uncles and your brothers. And I'm so desperately looking forward to the security and the safety that our sisters so desperately need, and our daughters and our mothers. And we all need these things, and it is impossible. It is impossible to produce those things while we are attacking each other, while we are under attack. A white man went into a Black neighborhood and shot and killed 10 people yesterday, right? And meanwhile, we're attacking each other. We're sending each other into the hands and the arms of other people. And these people don't love you. See, let me explain something to you. While you may not like Ray Ray and the attributes that he displays and the things that he does, and as I have mentioned, while personal responsibility prevails, because Ray Ray's made choices and he's embraced a spirit, and that's what he walks in every day. So he's got a personal responsibility. But let us not discount Ray Ray's humanity, because he is a sum total of the experiences that he has endured, and he is a product of the experiences of his parents and their parents and their parents. So dysfunction to dysfunction to dysfunction has been handed down, and Ray Ray is only trying to make the best of the world that he came into, right? So Ray Ray got some problems, but let me tell you something. While you're running to the arms of other people, understand they're human too. And while their experiences in the last 400 years are very different from yours, they are and do impact them. So let me tell you something. While you look at us and we're looking at each other and just, gee, that's just nasty. Look at how Black men are. Look at how Black women are. Let me tell you something. What you're failing to recognize is how they are. So you must understand what it takes for a human being to become so desensitized, so detached, so disconnected that they can hang a human being from a tree, light them on fire, put that fire out before they die, cut off the fingers, the toes, the penis, put that penis on a chain and hang it around their wife's neck like it was a souvenir, like it was jewelry, and take pictures of it, proud of it. Do you understand the level of disconnection required for a human to get to that place? That's not easy. You can't simply opt to do that. That doesn't happen naturally in a human. That's not natural, right? But it was taken as normal. It was taken as natural. And so apathy, disconnection, hatred, and abhorrent practices were handed down generation after generation after generation after generation after generation. So today, the European appears to be the more healthy and whole of us, because they seem to have everything we want. We want a car, we got to go to them. We want a house, we got to go to them. So they appear to be the most healthy and whole of us all. But you need to peel the layer of that onion back, because just like you're human, you are affected by the last 400 years of circumstance. They too are affected by 400 years of circumstance, and the circumstances in their lives produced apathetic, disconnected monsters. They don't love you. In a master-slave dynamic, the only way that you can possibly escape that as being the prevailing operating system is when equal ground is produced, where there is no longer a dependent relationship between master and slave. But as long as that dependent relationship exists, every relationship produced with one from that ruling class is going to be predicated upon that master-slave relationship. So there ain't no fucking love for you. They don't love you. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you see. They cannot be extricated from the history that produced them, just like you cannot be extricated from the history that produced you. They're human too. So while we're running to the arms and we're being pushed to the arms, I'm telling you, they're murdering us. They're murdering us in every day. And what we're not doing is we're not spreading nutrition amongst each other. We're attacking each other. We're taking nicks out of each other's armor. We're making each other weaker. We're making each other more susceptible. And understand, each and every single immigrant group that has ever come into America has been an opportunist. They have come to America by definition. They have come to America to take advantage of the opportunity that was produced in the misery in your family and the breeding of the women in your family. Each and every single immigrant group in the last 400 years came to enjoy the opportunity produced in your condition. So today, in 2022, when you've turned your sister away from Black men, guess what? There is a Chinese opportunist waiting. There is a European opportunist waiting. When you suggest that the savior of Black men is a woman outside of your own, guess what? There's an opportunist waiting. They will absolutely take advantage of your diminished capacity. They'll smile in your face. They'll do all of these different things. You got to understand, you're dealing with a physical being, right? You travel to stars, you're star dust. Your beginning and ending is not here on this planet. You're stardust, literally. None of this shit that I'm saying is opinion. It's none of my opinion. Look it up, right? You're stardust. You've traveled the galaxies. You are familiar with them. The people of Kemet said that they were from Venus, right? The Dogon say that they are from Sirius. So in each of these people maintain a tradition that say they came from a different place. They didn't come from here. But you've got a physical being that was born right here on the planet, right? You've got a physical being that never traveled the stars. And that physical being masters a physical space. They master a physical space. Yeah, they'll freak you. Man, look, you run to them, you know what it's an opportunist. Do you understand this? It's an opportunist. So when you run to them, it's not, they don't see your humanity. They don't see your humanity. They see your body. They see what they see on the Real Housewives. They want some of that. They want some of what's been sold on the boob tube, right? That's what they want. And you're going to give it to them. But guess what? You're in compromising positions. You're in places with people who are completely apathetic and have embraced, fostered, and promoted apathy for the last 20 generations in their family. Nothing that you do, none of your tears, none of your fears, none of your deaths can breach that or make that irrelevant. Your death cannot make that irrelevant. They are still products of the history that produced them. I'm telling you, we're in a bad way. We're in a bad way. And we are being picked off one by one. It's not being talked about. You're seeing the news, you're seeing the media, and the media would have you believe that we're killing each other more than anyone else. You don't understand. You don't understand. When they were killing each other in gangland warfare, Black people killing each other in gangland warfare, you guys understand, in the train yards, there were train cars full of guns being left there. There is an orchestrator to this. It's not just happening by nature. It's not just natural. There's an orchestrator to this. And I can promise you, no one has killed more of you. No one is killing Black men. No one is killing Black women more than America, whether it be in the hospital, whether it be in the labor and delivery, whether it be in Georgia, where those Klansmen are discarding your bodies today, whether it be anywhere in the United States of America, no one. It's not even possible. It sounds good because we're saying that shit. It sounds good because the media is pushing that shit, but no one in human history has been murdering us beyond what America has. With your food, with your water, with your medicine, with their education, with absolutely every avenue. So stop saying that bullshit, please. Please. Like, again, as I went through and I'm speaking to this, I'm saying definitions need to be clear. We're saying shit and it sounds good, but it ain't real. It's not true. But we're hitting each other with it and we're taking dings at each other and we're taking pieces out of our armor, but we're not doing that in other populations. We're doing it only on the plantation to each other. I'm saying, give each other a break. That's all I'm saying. Give each other a break. I'm not here to take nicks out of your armor. I'm trying to bolster your armor. I'm trying to make it stronger. I'm trying to make it real. I'm not trying to take something from you. I'm not attacking you. I'm highlighting the words that we use and how they fall short and how we fall short when we take and use them to abuse each other. And none of these words necessarily have to have any basis in truth, but we'll use them against each other and we'll go back and forth and back and forth. Meanwhile, the opportunist is watching us, huh? And they're taking every opportunity that they can to consume your delectable Negro flesh, right? I'm saying, I love you. I love you. I need you to begin to love yourself. Begin to look at yourself in the mirror, naked, with nothing, and see yourself truly as you are. See this world truly as it is. Define the appropriate priority into tomorrow and every day after, and spend effort. Increase the amount of time that you are spending every day selfishly looking to produce a permanent solution for yourself, your loved ones, your family, and your community. This is the only way out. You can't keep doing what you've been doing and expect different results. Okay? The general subject is I love you. I love you. Peace.